That's what's happening to engineering, like a lot of businesses. Right. But that larger firms being run by business people. It's not being run by engineers. So now it went from an engineer architect in their community who cares about their community to let's make a profit.
Big
now
shift.
My engineers in my firm are commodities to make money off of. Mm-hmm. That is why, as I talk to thousands of engineers every year, we feel like commodities in a profit-making business. Now, wait a minute. Engineering and architecture, these people don't want to be a commodity. They care about humanity, design, and they're brilliant. To be sold as a commodity, they're not tolerating it. They're leaving. Now we got a bigger problem. This country without engineers and architects and all of our engineering, the larger firms are going overseas to meet this growing demand. Engineering and architecture and design is growing by 4% a year. It's not a dying industry, it's a growing industry. Larger firms are going overseas to fulfill on making more money, and the lack of American engineers who don't like that work environment. And Level Engineering and Architecture is a public benefit corporation that isn't focused on profit. It's focused on creating a work environment so we can restore the youth before we lose all of our knowledgeable people. Download that knowledge from the older engineers, get it to the younger people. But if the younger people are leaving at 50 to 70%, got a problem. So that's my motivation for Level.
Welcome to the Level Design Podcast, a podcast for architects and engineers who want to thrive in this industry by creating more freedom, fulfillment, and financial security. Join us in uncovering how to restore value and honor to the unique people who choose to be designers and caretakers of our built world, and why it's essential to the future of our society, our industry, and our planet.
Let's talk about history. Specifically the 1650s. So we're coming off the 40s and not a whole lot was changing. We had towns starting to form.
I'm beginning to think that the carpenters becoming valued in the community, so that we got more and more settlers, and the people on the trades are like becoming gold, right? A carpenter that can build a home, and
it's probably the best time in history to be a carpenter.
A carpenter, and our stonemason laying foundations. So we don't have concrete yet. Mm-hmm. So we're going out and quarrying stones or wherever's local and stacking and stones and building timber, right? And then maybe somebody that has some knowledge regarding geometry might be being asked to lay out lot lines and property lines.
Interesting.
And they might be saying, putting themselves out that I can be a surveyor, and I can help establish ownerships for this new land. So they're becoming important. Governance is probably pretty strange. Maybe church starts to become the governance here. Mm-hmm. Who's governing us? Who's settling arguments? Who's keeping us from unrest? Yeah. God and witchcraft.
At that time, you got to think there's probably, we know so much today, obviously. Back then, you kind of just put the faith in something way bigger than you, because how could you even try to justify, the
still
reality.
Wild in 16, where are we at 1650?
The 50s,
it's still wild. It's still wild.
So we had
a wild place.
We have water town. We've got towns near water starting to form, and then we have people starting to fill in to move out, farms, getting some space, grabbing some land, creating some really muddy lines, and then you've got ownership. You've got governance of ownership, which is probably its first kind of stages of that. So it's probably messy. You're dealing with disputes of this is my land, but
My water.
there's no way to
My-
maybe prove it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the time where there's enough people, they start arguing about this. So I think there was in maybe Salem, this arguments about boundaries of land and the lack of surveying and disputes. One of the owners of a farm, self-claimed probably farm. Now the King of England was starting to dedicate. A lot of the French, Spanish, English were owning different parts of the country, and the kings were assigning land to settlers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the settlers, on the other hand, really weren't surveying well.
How so?
So there's this, yeah. It gets bad enough in these eras that people are starting to execute over arguments. They blame it on witchcraft. So you're starting to see people, oh, this person's bad. The church just says it's bad because they're arguing over properties. This person's a witch.
Right.
So off you go.
How convenient.
Let's burn you at the stake. Yeah. So that's the 1650s.
Scary time.
Just be a carpenter. Keep it simple.
Yeah, just build things with your hands.
Where's the sewer and water go in these areas where there's 100, 300 people? Where do you get their
That's
water?
a good question.
Where is the drinking water coming out of?
Right. So I'm envisioning buckets,
Out of
barrels,
the river. Yep.
a lot of walking, a lot of carrying.
Yep.
No pipes yet or anything
No
like
pipes
that.
yet. Nope. So they're literally starting to cart water or bucket water, but the person upstream is using it as a toilet.
Oh God, I got.
So this is starting to see the problem. Yeah,
that's going to cause some disputes.
They're going to hear me say this term, which is common in the industry, is the answer to pollution is dilution.
Got it.
So we have all this, even in the EPA and our regulatory environment says you can't have this much bad stuff like poo, parts per million of poo in a certain volume. Well, so how we cure that as designers in the environmental world? Well, you could work on the poo problem, or you can just add more water. So if you dilute the poo, you're okay.
Oh, that's tough. That is really.
That's what's happening in the world. It's always been happening. It's still happening. Is the cure to pollution is dilution.
It's not
more water.
It's not a perfect solution by any means.
FYI, you'll hear that a lot in our podcast. So I'm thinking there's imports of glass going on boats at this point. And you're getting a glass window. It's been on a boat. I don't know. Well, let's research when the first American glass manufacturer was. But just think about that. Glass is like gold, right? A little light in the house. Awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
Simple conveniences. Our craftsmen, our builders, our tradespeople, our engineers, our architects, no matter what discipline in engineering, they're all working on human convenience.
Mm-hmm.
It's convenient to drink water, not get sick. It's convenient to get rid of our waste without seeing it. It's convenience to drive at high speed. It's convenient to go into a building that's conditioned, that's warm, or that's cool. It's convenient. All these things that almost everywhere you're sitting now, you can just go all the way around your chair, and 90% of everything you see is human convenience designed by a designer.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was an engineer or designer creating your conveniences wherever you're sitting right now. Right? So the world of human convenience, where do you go to work on more convenience? I want my life to be more convenient. Humans do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to a tradesperson, go to a builder, you go to a skilled person, an architect, an engineer, to make that your reality. Right?
Right.
And that's engineering and architecture. And that's tradespeople, that's skilled trades.
Yeah.
They're working on human convenience. The root reason we started Level and what motivated me was government's not going to save this planet.
Yeah.
Government by design is intended to go slow.
Mm-hmm.
It ebbs and flows and it goes slow and it changes. And that's really on purpose. And even the world leaders have been getting together since the 90s about, hey, let's pass things to change the way we pollute the world. Basically ineffective. If the pollution's going up at a higher rate since the creation of these world entities, these world political entities started this in the 90s, it did not do anything except increase the trajectory of pollution. And we all think government's going to regulate us into saving the planet. It has not proven to be. I don't think it will. So one would say, or my belief is, hey, what if we created a culture of designers that actually took the lead? When people come to us for a convenience or something new or a building or infrastructure, what if we took the lead as designers and said, let's look at your project and let's figure out how we can clean this up. Let's look at what you need, what the project needs, what your convenience needs, and let's look at economically what you can pull off and let's improve it. Mm-hmm. And then us as designers are actually the leaders of that. Can we create a community of designers that actually starts building a new variable of design? Currently, our engineering and our architecture is pretty much decided by low bid, lowest cost to our clients. That's pretty much the variable.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's not unusual worldwide. How can we accomplish this for the most profit, the most gain, which means lowest cost? There's a variable missing, which is impact to the environment.
Yeah.
Concrete, just making concrete in this world, around the world, is 10% of the pollution.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's just making it.
That just needs to be like on billboards across the country.
Yeah, the built world, just building stuff, just the act of building stuff in this world is 40% of the pollution on the planet.
Mm.
That's not heating it. That's not cooling it.
Right.
That's not lights on, lights off. That's not pumps pumping pressured water into the building so you can drink safe water. That's not the transportation system to get you to and from your homes and work. It's just the act of building new stuff.
That's crazy.
Is 40% of the pollution on the planet.
To think of the rate of building to keep up with that number seems it's incredibly high.
What if what's motivating Level and why we created Level is let's start creating a designer's culture that actually starts from small scale level, that we actually set a trend, that we actually create purposeful youth that want to come into engineering architecture, that have a purpose, this purpose of let's add a variable to save us. And that culture grows and saturates all designers outside of Level, architecture and engineering, and it starts to become the status quo. Yeah. Look, love it, love what you're doing, love the idea. what's the impact? Can we do something here? Because government's not doing it.
Yeah.
So that's my motivation for Level, and what we're doing at Level is to start to create that culture of adding a new variable, saving what we got, working on existing maintenance, talking to our taxpayers about, hey guys, let's fund it. Let's create jobs and fund maintenance of infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
It creates jobs, it creates economy. You're not losing a taxpayer, you're generating more economy.
Yeah.
Let's get engineers and architects interested in saving what we got. Let's build new conveniences, make what we got a better convenience, and let's take charge. As engineers and architects, we are the ones that create that convenience.
Yeah, we can't wait on something else, some other movement or entity or government.
I think the last major really major environmental law that came out was 72. It's not working.
Looking for a new opportunity? Interested in being part of an expanding network of independent engineers and architects who are thinking differently? Level Design Partners is on a mission to create prosperity for design professionals, the industry, and the world, using innovative business systems and a culture of collaboration. We believe that traditional education and firm structures want you to be a cog in their machine, depriving you of key skills needed to thrive, thus commoditizing an entire industry in the process. Gain access to skills, tools, and systems by partnering with Level Design Partners. Learn more at leveldesignpartners.com.
So Scott, and you don't love, talking about yourself, but humor me for a second.
Okay.
Let's just go back a little bit, because I think it'll be interesting to hear how you arrived at this conclusion. And this might even be like a 2 or 3 parter, because you have some pretty incredible stories and things that you've done in your career. Tell me why you even got into engineering in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I Dad was an electrical engineer, and I started getting exposed to the built world, a lot of different things. Dad, through economic downturn in the 70s, we're going to have to build our own home. Even in the light of it, Mom and Dad had good careers, it wasn't possible. So I found myself creating something with my dad as a boy, creating a home, going after school and working to 10, 11 at night, creating a home with my dad. Wow. So it became this time with my father. And of course, he didn't really know how to build a home. We were learning together. And it was fun. And that fun and that family and that interaction with actually moving into that home and enjoying that home, I was like, oh, this is actually really cool, And then I got an opportunity to get a job with county fairgrounds that had a new big bond issue, and they had this bunch of money to build a brand new fairgrounds. Happened to be my backyard. And I had skills, and the manager was like, hey, when, I'll employ you. We gotta build this stuff. Now I'm a kid, right? Mm-hmm. I just got done. The neighbor across the street said, can I hire you to help me frame? He needed framing. I was 12. I got my first check at 12 being a framer. Wow. I paid my first tax bill at 12 in Wyoming. You can still do back in the day. So here I am framing and making money, and then the neighbor says we got to build this giant fairgrounds. Now I'm doing commercial buildings, doing pipelines, I'm doing sewer, I'm doing water, and I'm a certified welder by age 17 in Wyoming. I went to college and learned how to weld at 17. So now I'm like a tradesperson, full-blown carpenter, laying sewer, water main, building steel buildings, welding by 17.
That's wild.
And the opportunities were just, I was having fun. I was outside. I was learning trades. I was really became in love with this thing of building things with my bare hands.
Didn't you say that you saw in class, you saw metal or steel or something stretched
Testing your
to the
weld.
point
Yeah,
where it
you
looked
test
like
your weld.
taffy?
Taffy, yeah. It's
you
weird to
were-
watch steel get stretched and it looks like taffy. Yeah.
You saw that and you were hooked.
Yeah. Yeah. How's it possible, right? It's testing your weld. They stretch it and
I see.
Your weld can't break. It's got to be the steel that breaks first. But anyway.
So welding and building and working on all these things at 12 and then 17.
All right. Yeah. So I'm 17 and I don't know why this is legal, but in Wyoming, there wasn't a lot of laws, but or at least enforced. So I'm welding on top of a roof on a grandstand. So I'm 60 foot in the air, and there's something wrong with this design.
Oh, great.
And I'm welding on the roof, and they go, well, we got to get the engineer out. We got to get the engineer out because the engineer's got to decide what to do with this problem. Now, I know my dad's an engineer, but I'm up on the roof welding, and I'm watching, and this engineer drives onto the site, and literally everybody on site went over to him and gathered around, rolled the drawings out on the tailgate, and they all were listening to whatever he said. And I want that job. So that was it. Cool. I was like, I want whatever knowledge he has that causes that kind of human draw for building. I was like, that's the one I want. And so I went to school.
Wow.
Yep.
That's so cool. Yeah. As a young man seeing that, you're like, wow, that's like the movie star of the site.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It was super cool.
So then you went to school?
At some point, I was in the building nuclear power plants for a while for Bechtel I got this great opportunity as a cooperative student during college to learn how to build a nuclear power plant. And that was like the coolest thing ever to build, building that nuclear power plant. It was just so amazing machine. Wow. It's an amazing machine. So now I'm really hooked. I'm going through college. I'm learning in the summers. I'm building a nuclear power plant.
You put yourself through engineering school, right?
Yeah. Dad thought it would be cool if I was just made it on my own. So that's kind of my dad's philosophy. So yeah. I've been on my own since 17. That was Dad's. I always had my mom and dad. It was there. I love them to death, but that was the old farm boy's way of toughening up their boy, right?
Go prove it. Go prove yourself.
Prove it. Yeah. Have fun. Talk to them every week, but they were no help other than moral support. So, but yeah, worked my way through college. And then I just had a work for public sector and private sector, back and forth. Public sector always frustrated me. Public sector was frustrated with me because I was always improving and driving and changing. That's who I am. Public sector would tolerate me for a while. It would be kind of like, okay, we need somebody to come fix this thing we have. Mm-hmm. I'd go in and fix it, and then after that, they were like, okay, go away.
Right. They just
I'd go through these phases. Yeah, it was fun. And it became predictable for my personality. Mm-hmm. I'd go into a government job, shake it up, change it up, and then they'd be like, we'd have to part ways.
God, that's got to be kind of stressful for you. No real stability.
Yeah. I like improvement. I don't like static. So
makes sense.
Did a lot of billions of dollars in projects at some role, lower roles, leadership roles, billions of dollars of projects, infrastructure, building. I've always had my own construction company doing stuff too. So
yeah, you've built how many houses?
Over 100. I've designed and built over 100 homes on the side.
Pretty cool.
Yep.
Wow. All because you started at 12 with your dad, just building a home.
I think so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty, it's a really cool trajectory, and it totally makes sense why you do what you do today. Because you don't like static, you want to improve things. You clearly see all the issues with, how companies and firms are run. So what were you seeing in the industry that finally clicked for you that you needed to try to do something different and go out on your own?
Yeah, good question. Over 4 decades, Miles, like 40 years ago in the industry, my peers, my fellow designers, as we're working on these human convenience projects, I don't care what it was, but there was excitement for us. We liked the work. It was exciting environment for us, and it was everybody was up for it. Everybody was up for working long and hard and creation and but as the decades went by, it went away. My peers were frustrated. My peers were quitting. They were exhausted. They were unhappy with the environment. And at some certain point, from going from public sector to private sector, I saw such lower level enjoyment and work. In just that 10 years going from back to private, I was like, something's wrong. Something's wrong. What's going on with our industry that everybody's this way? And that's when I started looking at problem solving about not uncommon, by the way, with a lot of industries is this country was built by small, medium firms in their communities. This country was built by small, medium firms. And that small, medium firm worked in their communities or worked a certain niche. And that was done, that person that owned that business was an engineer and architect. And they built their community. They served their community. They're going away. And they're getting bought, and they're going away because it's the baby boomers, right? And their succession plan, they're either dying or retiring, and they're selling, and they're being bought out by larger firms.
Right.
Monopoly. It's like, what happened to your hardware store downtown? Well, it's Home Depot.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's what's happening to engineering, like a lot of businesses. Right. But that larger firm's being run by business people. It's not being run by engineers. So now it went from an engineer, architect in their community who cares about their community to let's make a profit.
Big
now
shift.
My engineers in my firm are commodities to make money off of. That is why, in my mind and research, and as I talk to thousands of engineers every year, that's what's happening to us. We feel like commodities in a profit-making business. Now, wait a minute. Engineering and architecture, these people don't want to be a commodity. They care about humanity, design, and they're brilliant. To be sold as a commodity, they're not tolerating it. They're leaving.
Yeah.
Now we got a bigger problem. This country without engineers and architects and all of our engineering, the larger firms are going overseas to meet this growing demand. Engineering and architecture and design is growing by 4% a year. It's not a dying industry, it's a growing industry. The larger firms are going overseas to fulfill on making more money.
Yeah.
And the lack of American engineers who don't like that work environment.
Yeah.
And Level Engineering and Architecture is a public benefit corporation that isn't focused on profit. It's focused on creating a work environment so we can restore the youth before we lose all of our knowledgeable people.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Download that knowledge from
Mentor.
the older engineers, get it to the younger people. But if the younger people are leaving at 50 to 70%, we got a problem.
Right.
So we're actively trying to create this synergy. I love the big firms for big projects and executing on those big things that we need. But hey, the small communities, the small projects throughout the country, that the big firms just not taking care of it. It's just in this money making mode.
Right.
So it's not saying we can't have those things, but it's like, wait a minute, a bulk of the future working in the country is actually small, medium community work.
Right. But
let's create a business model where engineers and architects in their communities can thrive, and take care of those projects, because that is the future.
Yeah, and I want to be clear that it's not so much let's go back to the old way. It is a creation of a new business model and using new tools and new ways of thinking and a new culture and collaborative environment to bring back parts of what worked in the past, like kind of the local thriving component, but also new technologies and new business models that will continue to evolve and be sustainable.
It's very forward thinking, right? With keeping one foot in the traditions of engineering and architecture and our joy of serving our communities, but being so modern about it.
Yeah, and always trying new things, experimenting, listening, being open to, most of your time is kind of in the trenches, working and mentoring with engineers and the team, and bringing on new team members across the country, nationally, but also keeping it local. Having multiple locations that are local, but providing the tools, resources, support, community, nationwide.
Yeah. You're right. I spend 40 hours a week mentoring engineers and architects, and they're sponges. They don't have that. I don't know. At some point, become the old guy in the room where you know a lot, and just sharing that. Yeah. And the youth just want it, and it gets them excited because they're learning, and they're gaining this knowledge, and we're passing that knowledge on to the youth and level, and now they can take that ball and run with it and make it better, in the future.
Well, I love it, Scott. Thank you for sharing. And I do, in the next episode or two, I actually do want to go a little more into the weeds on the business and how you started, because it's a fascinating story of how you decided to, okay, I'm going to go off on my own, try this out. Obviously it hasn't been a perfect smooth ride. There's always going to be turbulence and lessons along the way. And we kind of, and I got to see a lot of it because I've been working with Level for at least 6 years now. So I've gotten to learn so much, and I want to dive into that. I think it will be really valuable for people to hear. It's not easy, but we've kind of done a lot of the hard work and are totally transparent, can share behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome. Thanks, Miles.
Thanks for listening. If you found value in this episode, support us by sharing it with someone or leaving a review. In upcoming episodes, we'll discuss the realities of the industry today and what the future may look like. It's our belief that positive changes for architects and engineers is not the obligation of the industry, but rather a choice you make to reimagine how we work together. We invite you to join us in creating a world in which design professionals thrive. Learn about our mission and get involved by following us wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribing to our newsletter at leveldesignpartners.com.